All right, Bones, you can cut the music. We've got just an hour or so to do here, so let's not. Of course, it's not a bad deal going with the rock and roll, but let's get started with the show. All right, we're gonna have a special guest coming up, Daniel Roberge. I am not too familiar with him. We've barely talked. Uh, we're gonna get to know him over the next few hours, or the next hour. I think is we're going to be doing just a 1 hour show tonight, and just see what he's about and see what he's been doing and see what he plans to do. So let's go ahead and figure this out as soon as it lets me move. And let's go ahead and get the party started. Bones, take it away with the intro. And I'll be right back with Daniel as soon as I can get this started. Here we go. Finally. Here we go.
Warning, the following video contains strong language which may be offensive to some viewers and or inappropriate for children. The content within this video is intended for mature audiences only.
Southern Fried Paranormal with Len Dorman featuring Bones. Catch us on Spotify, iHeart, iTunes, Spreaker, Facebook, Stream, and everywhere else you catch your podcasts. And of course, WLFE-DB.com. Now, from the backwoods of southeast Arkansas, right beside the Bayou Bartholomew, the longest bayou on the planet, broadcasting from downtown metropolitan Cane Creek Township, here is your host, Len Dorman.
It locks in like that sometimes, but sometimes it does. And I've almost got to unplug everything to get the intro turned off. That's crazy. Anyway, let's get started with the show. We're already 3 minutes and some odd into a 1 hour show. This is a recorded show, recorded on Saturday. I'll be showing this on, I believe, the 17th of my counting, if my math is correct. My math is always questionable. Be showing this coming Thursday for the show. Southern Fried Paranormal will be shown at its normal time at 10 o'clock Central, 11 o'clock Eastern Thursday night. Let's bring our guest on right now and let him talk about himself. And I'll take a side because Daniel and I've never really spoken much before. Let's get started and we can learn about him. Bring him on and welcome to the show.
Hi, Len. Thanks. I like your intro, man.
Yeah, that is cool. WLFEDB and Ted, who runs that network, came up with that. He wrote it, put in what he wanted, and got I forget her name, young lady that did the voiceover for it. So he did that for me about a year and a half ago or so.
I like it. It's slick.
And it is. I've also got an outro that's a little bit sounds kind of similar, but definitely different. Kind of the same kind of music, same girl, but she says different things. About the show closing up. Of course, it's a real professional work, and I got tip my hat to Ted there, the owner of WLFEDB.
It's cool.
Of course, I don't know if you know this or not, but I will be showing this on Facebook and, of course, YouTube. It also goes to Facebook again on the WLFE DB Facebook page, goes on the WLFEDB.com site where people can watch it there. And fans of his network, of course, watch the show there. And he also forwards it to all the podcast networks. So at any given time, my show's out being watched, on the cloud or wherever all these shows are stored on podcast networks.
Awesome.
So, tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, maybe some investigations that you've done, a little bit about some evidence you got, maybe a good scare or two that you've got, people you've worked with.
Okay. Well, I've been at this for almost 12 years, as far as since I put out my first apps and everything. And I've always been interested in the paranormal ever since before I knew what the paranormal was, when I was a kid. The first time I ever went out to try to catch evidence or whatever, I was in my 30s, and I just went to a cemetery with one of my sons, my oldest son, and we had a little real cheap digital hand recorder thing, and we brought that with us. And I was just walking around asking questions or whatever, and we caught an EVP, and it was the first thing I ever caught, and it was real clear. It was two different voices, and the funny thing is I still capture the same two voices through different devices and different applications. The very same voices as what I caught that day, and then that kind of, we didn't get really too into it. We went on a couple of little ghost hunts just around. This is in southern New Hampshire. Like cemeteries and an old ghost town that's out there, stuff like that. Mostly outdoors kind of stuff in the summertime. And then I got busy with other things. I spent a few years kind of in I was a graphic designer for a tattoo studio, so I was really into the whole tattoo world. I was getting a lot of ink, and I was going places and tattoo conventions. I've been I know you're from Chicago. I went to the Chicago tattoo convention, and I spent time away from the paranormal. I didn't really think about it too much, and even though the whole time I wish I was, because the whole time I was working there, the building was really haunted. I just never really paid it much attention, and there was a big gap of time until I came up with my first app, and then it was just a runaway from there. No, should I keep going?
This app you're talking about, I'm assuming you still got it released, correct?
Oh yeah. Well, the first app I ever put out was called Spirit Box SV1 Spirit Box, and it had one button, start, stop. That's all it did. Was it just made noise, and I put it out for 99 cents years and years ago, and people started using it, and somehow people were catching evidence with it, and it started to sell a little bit, which gave me a budget to pour more time into it. And then I started using the next version of it really heavily, and that's when it started to evolve into a few different applications. Like important ones would be like Spiriphone, which is still out there, and it's a real-time recording app. So it works just like a real-time recorder would, and that actually formed the backbone for the Echo and EchoVox. So I originally put Spiriphone together. I ran it at the same time as this other app I had called Spirit Vox, which was just shooting out syllables, which was basically Bank A in EchoVox. And I put Echo on it, and then it finally dawned on me, like, oh, I should just put these two things in one instead of having to go through all this trouble. and have more control over it or whatever. So that's kind of what happened. I actually have the very since the Echo itself is actually a recording. I actually have a recording, and it's up on a SoundCloud page. The first time I ever ran Echo, it's recorded, and it was crazy. You know, there was like growls, and I still have it because it was recording. You know.
Are these apps still available, and where are they available?
All of my apps, except for one, are on Google Play. You can search Big Beard Studios, and they'll all pop up. And the ones I'm talking about, some of them are still available, some of them are not. EchoVox is still up. And there's a few other ones that don't get very much attention, but I think they're really great apps. There's EVX, which scans online radio stations to make ghost box. And there's EchoVox Touch, which you actually just touch your screen when you want to make sounds and swirl your finger around to get the sounds to come out. It's a more interactive version of EchoVox. And there's a few other ones out there, like my newest UltraVox and Spirit Talk. Those are two brand new apps that are like the next generation of EchoVox. I didn't want to update EchoVox because too many people are, you know, it's well established. It's been out for 10 years. I didn't want to change it too much, so I just had new apps. Yeah. So and EchoVox is on iOS for Apple.
I have gotten some amazing results on EchoVox.
You're not alone.
Just some amazing returns. Well, one of the greatest ones, I was at in south of Chicago, and I was in the area of Bachelor's Grove Cemetery.
I've been there.
By a old farmhouse, the remains of a farmhouse, and I had it on, had it running, and hadn't gotten anything. Just absolutely nothing. And all of a sudden, loud, static noise. It was very loud. I heard a male voice come on and said, she's wearing a blonde hat. And a female voice come on and said, what? He says she's wearing a blonde hat. And then I heard male and female laughter, and then heard loud static noise for a second, and nothing. Well, didn't really understand what the words were live. So I listened to that later. And when I got home, I realized exactly what it said. And I was back there with two people. One of them was a young lady, and she always wore a long blonde wig. And then I did some research, and back in the times when that house was actually there and people were living there, using the area as farmland, the word wig was not in the English language yet. What they called a wig a hat.
Oh. Well,
so
that
when
makes sense.
She was wearing a blonde hat, he was meaning she's wearing a blonde wig, which all of a sudden made perfect sense. And that was a common word for wig at the exact same year range that the remains of this house was actually occupied in a real farmhouse.
Wow. Yep. A hat instead of a wig.
So I've got some amazing stuff. Yes. They call it a hat. They just don't use the word wig. They don't know what that is. Mm-hmm. How did you come up with these apps?
Well, initially it was a desire to kind of do what I was seeing on TV. It just looked like fun. Going to spooky places and playing with all the equipment and stuff. But at the time, I was dirt poor. I did not have any money for a ghost box or a Mel meter or anything like that. And I had injured about 12 years ago. I tore my meniscus in my knee really bad, and I wasn't able to work anymore at what I used to be a stagehand. And I definitely couldn't, be a stagehand with my being bedridden. So I was watching a lot of TV, and I saw a lot of ghost hunting shows and stuff like that. And it just occurred to me that, oh, maybe there's an app. 12 years ago, smartphones were kind of new. They were still kind of fresh. And I opened up Google Play and I searched Ghost Box, and nothing came up. The only thing that popped up was Ghost Radar by Spud Pickles, which I guess would be the first ghost app or whatever. And that's kind of a joke or whatever, but that was the only app on Google Play at the time. So I said, well, shit, if there's something not there, I better make it before somebody else does. It seems like a great opportunity to kind of like get something going here. And at the time, I was already making expansion packs for a piece of music software called Caustic. That's a Google Play app. And I was making these instrument expansions, and that was kind of teaching me, some code and how to get in there and make simple little apps. So I basically kind of just through myself and through getting help through people on Reddit, I made it work, and that was the first one, the Spirit Box SV1. And then, like I said, from there it was after a brief stint of homelessness, I found a new place to live and everything. And that's when I really started getting into all this. I started going on investigations and, teaming up with people and stuff like that.
Okay. You have come up with some amazing apps that are popular. Do you still use them? Have you investigated any places recently with them?
Well, I'm getting done right now, basically 6 years off. I haven't really run anything except for when I had to test something to make sure it was functional. But I haven't used it with intention at all for like 6 years. And I just started using Ultravox and Spirit Talk again, and doing like sessions with intent and getting amazing results. Like, I'll send it to you on Facebook so you can see it, but unless you've already seen it. But on Spirit Talk, one of my favorite questions is, what is it like where you are? I always ask that question because I really want an answer. And I said, what is it like? What is it like where you are? And there was one little blurb of voice that didn't make any sense. There was another little syllable blip that didn't make any sense. And then you hear a voice clean as day, clear as a bell, say, "It's beautiful." It's a man's voice, says, "It's beautiful." Right after I asked that question, what's it like where you are? And it's like stuff like that absolutely blows my mind, because I built the thing and I made the sounds that go into it, and I know it's impossible to hear what I just heard. So like when people ask me, oh, how does this work? The best answer I have is magic, because I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. Spirit Talk, there's two sound banks in Spirit Talk. One of them is a reading of the Bible, of what's the Bible, the section of the Bible with about the apocalypse and all that. I can't remember off the top of my head right now for some reason.
I can't either.
Okay. I'm sure the listeners know what I'm talking about. I'm just drawing a blank right now for some reason.
Yes, it's the last chapter in the Bible, really.
Yeah, it's this big section of the Bible. I fit about an hour worth of it into the sound bank, and it's pitched down. It's lower. It's a little bit slower. It's changed up. I put a lot of effects on the actual voices themselves, so it's not just a dry voice. So there's more sound. There's more meat to it. Like stuff like reverb and pitch shifting, stuff like that. And then it gets put into the app, which the app chops it up randomly by itself. I used to chop up the files myself and then load them into the app, and then they would play kind of like an MP3 player on shuffle. But these new apps don't work like that anymore. And it seems honestly to be that spirits or whoever we're talking to, it seems easier for them to manipulate with this coding method, with software running like this, because there's no voice in my recording of the sound bank that says it's beautiful. It just doesn't exist. And the other bank, the second bank, is in Portuguese, and people are getting English out of that. So it's like, how do you explain it? I can't. And for your listeners, if you really want to know what I'm talking about,
I can't. I've used it for years, and I can't explain it. People ask me, "How does this work?" And I say, I don't know.
Yeah, it's beyond being able to explain, because even I don't.
I'll tell you one other instance that I had. So
I wanted to let everybody know. Sorry,
I was in Baptist Grove one other time, and I was had a group of people around me, a bunch of youngsters. I don't know, youngsters in their mid-20s, and I was asking just a couple of basic questions that I was actually getting answers, real-time answers to it, and the guy said, pointed to the only girl that was with us, and this was Chicago in springtime, so everybody had long sleeves and a jacket on. You've been in Chicago, you know how it is. It's not that warm,
right?
And anyway, what color? He said, what color bra? And named the girl by name. I don't remember her name. What color bra does she have on? And he was her boyfriend, so he knew what color bra she had on. The girl knew what color bra she had on. Neither one of them said the color. And I had no way. I've been accused of pre-recording into Echo Vox before.
Right.
The right answer. And then asking a question that the answer was recorded to and faking it like that. And I had no way. There was no way I could fake that. I wasn't there when the girl got dressed. I was miles away from her. But an answer came immediately: black. And that was the color. That was the color bra she had on, and it was clear as day black. And the whole group of people were just about ready to run. Because any question I asked, they thought I had pre-recorded it and was just acting it out.
Right.
When they asked a question, there was no way I knew the answer, and got an immediate answer correctly within seconds of asking the question. They were about ready to leave because there was no explaining that.
Yeah, I mean, what are you supposed to? How do you wrap your head around something like that? I wanted to tell everybody, if you go to YouTube and you search Echo Vox versus Pennhurst, VS period, Echo Vox versus Pennhurst, I have about an hour-long movie that I made that will pop up, and you'll see some incredible evidence from Pennhurst. Like, it's just mind-blowing stuff, with rooms full of investigators, like seasoned investigators that have used every device under the sun and gone all sorts of places, and people still to this day are blown away by what happened that night. I mean, we got a man saying electrocute so clearly. it was so crazy because the sound stopped and it was silent in the room for about 5-10 seconds, and then the word electrocute comes out of this box, and or the phone, and really you could hear everybody in the room gasp. And so Echovox versus Penhurst on YouTube. If you don't know Echovox or whatever, this will give you, or if you're interested in Penhurst, it's a great thing to watch. I put it out like 9-10 years ago, so it's been up there for a little bit. And then I wanted to tell you a cool story, kind of like the one you just told, of blowing people's minds with something that's impossible. When I was in Chicago, I stayed with Andrew Openlander, who built ghost boxes, and him and I were down in his basement workshop, and he was getting ready to do new builds of ghost boxes. So he had some stuff that he'd ordered that came in from China, like speakers and stuff, and he had little boxes with little speakers in it and stuff. And he had taken a speaker out of one of the boxes, and he put it down on this like wooden counter. It was kind of like his workbench or whatever. And he sat the speaker down, and then him and I turned and we just started talking about whatever we were talking about. I don't remember. And without any warning or whatever, a voice yelled, "Hey!" Like a very strange voice, sounded almost digital or gravelly, yelled, "Hey!" And it came out of the speaker. The speaker had never been used. It came straight from the factory. It never had wires attached to it. It was just a paper cone and a magnet. And a voice shot out of that thing. And now the only thing I can imagine that gave it energy was he has a Tesla coil, and we'd always play with that Tesla coil down in that workshop all the time. So it was always like the static in the air. And it's maybe that contributed to it or whatever, but that right there, no ghost box, no Echovox, no nothing, just a speaker on a countertop, blew my mind.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I found out that spirits can manipulate electronic devices. They can manipulate your camera, both still and video. They can actually voice over on a walkie-talkie sometimes. You can once in a while get where you just have a walkie-talkie sitting there running, turn it just adjust where there's not so much static. And sometimes you will get voices and go interactive with these voices with nothing in the area. No taxi cabs, no other radios, no nothing. And all of a sudden you hear a voice, and you ask that voice a couple of questions and find out that they will answer you real time, and you're not having to put down the mic. I mean, push the button on the walkie-talkie at all. You're just having to sit there and run, which anybody with another walkie-talkie in the area, they're not going to hear you unless you key the mic.
Right. Yeah.
So how does that happen? It's just baby monitors. Yeah.
Put the receiver right next to your speaker, and then put the speaker somewhere far away, and there's a whole nother dimension to it there.
Yes. We were talking before we went on the air about John Dillinger event that I ran last month. On my DVR, I have a rare DVR copy of Manhattan Melodrama, which was a movie that John Dillinger was watching in the biograph, just before he was killed.
Yeah.
So what I did, I said, my pad, I have it on. I've got a copy on my phone. I use it as a backup, but my primary when I'm investigating is Echovox on a pad.
Right.
No phone connections. It's not even connected to the internet. I would have to, if I wanted to run it live on the internet, I've got to either run the speaker that's going into a microphone, or if I want to run it itself, I've got to hook all that up. And I don't bother. I don't want to hook up the internet.
Right.
But I put it in front of my TV and at a lower volume run Manhattan Melodrama as a background. And then specifically asked if John Dillinger wanted to talk. And I actually got feedback you can hear over the really low volume of the movie play. You can actually hear some voices responding to my questions.
Nice.
And I did that live last month. I've never heard of that being done where you're trying to contact John Dillinger during a playback of the movie.
Right. See, that's kind of why, like, triggering, you know, like using something as a trigger object or trigger sounds. I've been into that for a long time. I used to investigate kind of religiously at this cemetery called Valley Street Cemetery in Manchester, New Hampshire, and it's an old cemetery in the middle of the city, and it was they have mass graves there for I forget the illness, but that went through in the 1800s or whatever. Can't remember what it was, but you know, mass graves there, no headstones or whatever from the epidemic, and used to go there all the time. But it was a Victorian style cemetery with you know, gazebos and gardens, and it used to be anyway, with paths everywhere, and people would go there for picnics on Sundays, and it was a lot different. But they used to have a band. The band would go and play there. You know, like an old time band would go there and play. So I try to find music from back then and play it, and I used to get really great responses about the music. And when I was playing the music, and also in that app I just put out in Ultravox, it's the first one where you can take whatever sound you want and you can feed it into the program, and the program will chop it up into a sound bank for you. You can use that. So I've been kind of flirting with the idea. I haven't really done it yet. Maybe you want to try it, or a listener is you know, taking trigger sounds and putting them into the sound bank and using those trigger sounds, because I feel like those go out so much stronger because they're in the echo, that whatever's on the other side really hears it better. Even if it's not in the perfect order, they'll still understand it. So that's something or an experiment I really want to try. Oh, I know. Oh, I forgot the most important part is I live a mile from.
I've heard of people taking of an. Okay, go ahead.
Oh, I live about a mile from Ronnie Van Zant's grave. He was the singer for Lynyrd Skynyrd.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I live right down the road from him, and what I was thinking of is just putting a bunch of Lynyrd Skynyrd songs with him singing into this sound bank and bringing it over there and trying it out. You know.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, I'm gonna do it one of these days. It's too hot now.
Yes. I did something for Camp Douglas. I don't know if you remember this from your time in Chicago, but Camp Douglas was a Civil War prison camp, and one of the more notorious. In fact, one of the larger ones. But what I did, I recorded on my phone several old time songs that were sung during the Civil War.
Yep.
And what I did, I played them while I was running Echo Vox as a trigger. So what you're talking about works.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, something about it. It's like transmitting. I feel like more like you're transmitting the sounds rather than just playing them over a speaker.
Right. And that's a very interesting experiment. And anybody who wants to try it, go ahead, experiment, play with it, see what you got, try it a few times. And I advise that to everybody. Don't just blow any of this stuff off, because Danny's gotten some results, and I know I have gotten results just experimenting. That's the true sign of a true investigator, in my opinion, is the willingness to experiment.
Well, that's what all this is. Nobody knows what they're doing.
No.
You know, trial
We
and
can't
error.
prove who we're talking
Yeah.
to. I was talking to. Mhm. I don't know if you've ever heard Rob Hernandez or not,
Oh
but
yeah,
he
of
was talking
course.
to some paranormal people from Australia, and he has gotten away from ghosts now because he thinks that he's got to come up with his own system. He runs it through a computer, and makes it sound like it's running through water. Some great exploration of different effects, but he thinks now that he's talking to aliens, not ghosts, and you can't prove it either way. I mean, if we could prove there's aliens positively in a scientific manner, we'd be the most amazing person on the planet.
Right.
And if you could prove we're talking to ghosts, irrefutably that we're talking to ghosts, and absolutely prove it scientifically, we know around the world. We can't prove who we're talking to.
I can say who it is though, with absolute certainty, and that's they're in another dimension.
Yes.
Because I hear them.
Yes.
And they can see me, and they can hear me, and I think they can even read my thoughts. They are definitely other dimension beings of another dimension. Whether they have a physical body or not, who knows? But they can see everything, they can hear everything, and maybe they know everything. I don't know. They seem to exist outside of time, our time anyway. So, and like I said, why have I always gotten those same two voices, over the course of 12 years or so, or even more than that? That was even longer, 14, 15 years. How would I get the same two voices unless those two entities, whatever they are, kind of are still just around wherever I've gone,
Excuse me. Yeah. I cannot explain a thing about what you're talking about because I've seen it. I know it exists. You're not even exaggerating a bit, but I can't explain it.
No, it doesn't make any sense to us or to anybody else. I mean, people have their own beliefs, and I'm okay with that. If you want to believe that
Right.
ghosts are ghosts, I personally don't really believe in like human spirits hanging around a whole lot. I'm not saying that they don't. I just don't think they hang around like forever or something, because otherwise, I mean, how many people have lived? It's billions and billions of people have lived through the course of humanity. They all had souls. So, where did they all go? I mean, we don't have caveman ghosts. We don't have, ghosts from the year 200, or where's all the Roman ghosts and, things like that. Like, it's very strange the way it works. Like, why do you always see Victorian, ghosts in their Victorian clothes? They are very common. And you go to England and stuff, and they tend to see a lot of stuff from, the Middle Ages or Victorian era, things like that. So I don't know. I personally I wouldn't want to talk to somebody that passed that I knew. I think that's too disturbing. I've never really given it a shot. So I just think it would be too disturbing. But people do it. I have a lot of Echovox users.
I have spoken. I've done it once, twice myself. Sometimes I'll contact. I think I've got a spirit guide. He doesn't like to talk to me. I was adopted at birth. My biological father kind of hangs around. I have been spoken to once or twice by my late father-in-law, and I have a couple of words from my late mother-in-law. But that as far as people I know, that's it. Sometimes I hear words like Ed or somebody else I may know that's passed on. But when I ask details, is this the Ed I know? I don't get an answer to it.
Right. Well,
So
that falls under the heading of plausible deniability, right?
Mhm.
I think that's how I feel that
Exactly.
the things on the other side, the things on the other side, they have to have, like, there's rules, and they're not allowed to tell us certain things because of plausible deniability. They want to be able to tell you something, but still leave you not knowing anything.
Right.
Ouija
But
boards are famous.
we got about. I've never now some babysitters that I had when I was really young, when I'm talking about 6, 7, 8, they used Ouija boards,
Mm-hmm.
and so I've had absolutely no experience with Ouija board doing it myself since I was in single digits.
Nice.
So
Yeah.
I've talked to a few people that know how to use it, but I've never really even been in the room where it was used properly as a communications device.
Wow. I brought one to Pennhurst, and they wouldn't let me use it, bring it in.
Really?
Yeah, they let me run Echovox. They let me do everything else, but they wouldn't let me bring in the Ouija board.
Wow.
Yeah.
Some people don't trust it. I don't trust me using it because I'm not that familiar, don't have that much any experience at all as an adult, even watching it being used. So I would not buy one myself.
Right.
But I would not leave the room to somebody that I thought knew what they were doing with it, were using it. I would not object.
Right. Well, it is what it is.
Some people are strange about that.
Yeah.
Yes, people are different, and you got to respect what people want to believe, and how they do things. That's the whole thing about how pair unity was come up with. It's just I'm not going to slam anything anybody else is doing.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
But I will just say, right to you in front of the public, I've got incredible stuff with Echovox. I really enjoy using it, and some of the stuff I just say is just totally unexplainable, except real communication.
Right.
I've seen people use it and hold up a shoe or a handkerchief or something and say, "What is this?" And they will name the color of what the object in their hand.
Yeah. Which doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't make any sense at all.
It's magic. In
Yes.
the truest sense of the word. In the truest sense of the word, it's magic.
I was using it in New Orleans. Yeah, I'm kind of gifted that way. I've used Echovox for years in Chicago, one of the more haunted cities, and in New Orleans, one of the most haunted cities in the country.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the people that was with me had a spirit guide, and a voice come over Echovox saying she needs to leave the room.
You broke up on me. I didn't hear what you said. Echovox.
The room. Yeah, she said it came both. She said she has to leave and he has to leave. So she left the room for a little bit. And the lady she was with finally said, "Can she come back in?" And the voice said automatically, right after she said that, she can come back in, but he has to stay outside. And come to find out, she had a male spirit guide.
Oh.
Who we were talking to on EchoVox did not like the spirit guide and didn't want the spirit guide in the room.
Mm-hmm. That's crazy.
How do you explain that? I did this with about 10 or 12 people in the room. It was not just me.
Right.
I literally scared the hell out of about a dozen people that night. Of course, this was 2 o'clock in the morning in the middle of the French Quarter in New Orleans.
Wow. Wow. Been there too.
I was on tour, and I was from really? I was there about in front of about 18 people, and the tour guide came down and said, "Oh, this is the first time I've heard your voice in so long. What? And you got something you want to say to me?"
Wow.
And I thought you drove off for a second.
Yeah, I know. Sorry about that.
Came back and said, "I don't like her."
Wow.
Yeah, that sounds like that me.
Wow.
I'm about to start waving. You're driving off in your car, but well, here she is. But she said, "What if you guys want to say to me?" And he said, "I guess to everybody else, but her." She said, "I don't like her."
Don't like her.
And I said, "What? How come you don't like her?" And he said, "She talks too much."
No. Do you put this stuff up online anywhere?
And you explain to me how you get she talks too much. You can barely hear it, but yeah, I actually show that video every once in a while on my 2 or 3 shows that I have. I've shown her on this show before.
Okay. Right on.
Did you do much investigating when you were in New Orleans? Didn't do much investigating down there.
No, I did a private residence about an hour and a half outside of the city, and the rest of the time I was there at Mardi Gras, so I just kind of hung out. But the private residence that I investigated proved to be the fact that everyone in the house was insane. Everyone in the house had mental illness problems, big time, and there was a lot of stress in the house, and it was a bad scene, and that's what was going on. We didn't get any evidence of anything paranormal at all, but it did seem that the family was pretty screwed up, and one of them was dying of cancer or something like that, and it was just a bad scene in that house. I think that their mind was, playing tricks on them or something. It didn't really seem to be like anything going on.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. New Orleans is a fantastic place to investigate. You're just surrounded by stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we were supposed to go to some hotel there, and it was actually, there was a bunch of I guess Playboy TV was there, and we were supposed to go, and there was supposed to be a bunch of Playboy playmates, and they were going to investigate with us and stuff, but it never happened. It fell through. I was really sad about that.
Yeah, I bet you are.
Yeah, sounded like a great time.
That would have been distracting, to say the least.
You're right. Yeah. Yeah. Ghost hunting on Playboy TV.
Yes. Let's see. Talking to you has been amazing. Having used your apps, we got about 9 minutes left.
Okay.
Do you have anything you want to say about where to find your apps again? Anything about what you do with the apps,
Sure.
where they can find how to work, etc.
Sure. let's see. Let's start with YouTube. If you go to YouTube, it's just Big Beard Audio is the YouTube channel. There's a lot of videos there. A lot of them are old, but it doesn't really matter. I haven't really put any videos out for a long time, but the stuff that's there is definitely quality. There's a lot of videos there to watch. Echovox versus Penhurst is there, and there's a lot of subtitled finds, catches. Also, if you use SoundCloud, if you go to soundcloud.com, Spirit Vox, not box, but Vox, Spirit Vox, there are tons of really old Echovox sessions on there from when it first was created. Some of them are at that Valley Street Cemetery I mentioned earlier. And also the first time I ever ran Echovox is on there, kind of historic recording. So that's soundcloud.com, Spirit Vox. And then if you're on an Android device, all my stuff is available on Google Play. You can search Big Beard Studios, or you can search Echovox, Spirit Talk, which is Spirit Talk's one of my newer apps. It only costs $7.99. It's a pretty inexpensive application. It's like the next generation of Echovox. Works really great. And then I have another that's like a professional Ghost Box, professional series. That's a bit pricier. It's called Ultravox Pro, and that's the one where you can put your own sound banks in there. It's got a lot of controls over how you chop up the sounds and make your sound bank and everything else. And I'm on Facebook. I have a Facebook group, Echovox Users. There's about almost 3,000 people in there. It has a little bit of activity. I'm trying to boost it up a little more now. And or you can add me as a friend, Daniel.
What was it? What was it? What was the name again of the Facebook page?
Echovox Users. It's a group.
Echovox Users. Okay.
Yeah, it's a Facebook group.
It's a group. All right.
Yep. And then if you're on, if you have a Apple, if you have an iPhone, you can go to the App Store and just search Echovox, and that'll pop up for you. And I think that's pretty much everything. Yeah, I think that's pretty much all the stuff.
Okay. And all this is available on the Google Store or the Apple Store, whatever it is.
Yep. And I'll tell you what.
I don't have an Apple product, so I don't know how that works.
I'll give one of your users a free copy of Ultravox Pro. That's a $40 value. I'll give him that for free. Whoever the first listener to email me at DannyBigBeard@gmail.com. If you're the first person in my inbox, DannyBigBeard@gmail.com. You can put Len in the subject line or free app, whatever you want. I'll figure it out. Just let me know that you heard the show and that you were trying to get a free app.
Somebody's going to take you up on that.
That's fine.
I'm sure.
More than happy to.
All right. The show will be aired this Thursday, so expect to be hit up either Thursday night or Friday.
Sounds good. I'll be watching my inbox.
Okay.
So Danny.
All right. Now we got about 5 minutes left. Okay. DannyBigBeard@gmail.com, right?
Yep.
Okay. We got about 4 or 5 minutes left. Is there anything you want to hit on after for just take a minute or two, a story or anything you want to talk about for about 4 minutes?
Well, I can tell you that I've done a few places. I've investigated a few places that I just want to let listeners know that you can pretty much, quote unquote, investigate wherever you want. I've run EchoVox in my truck at picking up the kids from school and sitting there in the line and just bored. So I just ran some EchoVox, and this is all on my YouTube channel actually. Then I started to get voices about go home, homework, and they were talking about homework and papers and all this stuff. I was just parked in my truck outside of a school. The school was probably built in the 1990s, so it's not like it's some old haunted place. And then I used to work in a big old mill building, and when I was bored, slacking off or whatever, I would go down to the basement and I would walk around with the EchoVox in this building, and I got all kinds of crazy stuff. So I think that apps are a fun way, an interesting way to just kind of investigate your surroundings and give you a different perspective on what it means to use ITC and communicate with the disembodied voices, because I believe that you could go to the top of Mount Everest and you could communicate with something. You could go to the bottom of the ocean and you could communicate with something. It permeates everywhere. So, don't be afraid to I wouldn't recommend doing it in your house, just because it can stir up activity that you might not want. But,
Yes.
if you live somewhere, an interesting place near you, don't be afraid to go there and check it out. And even though nobody ever said, oh, this place is haunted or there's ghosts here or anything like that, it could be the parking lot of the 7-Eleven, but it's for some reason you wanted to run it. Go for it, because you'd be surprised what you catch, and I've done every kind of experiment under the sun with I've run 4 EchoVoxes at once, 6 EchoVoxes at once. I've run them through baby monitors and walkie-talkies and all kinds of stuff. Big giant Bluetooth speakers that were so booming loud. I played it over a club PA system before, and that was wild because the whispers were so loud. They were so loud. I had to put the EchoVox in a separate part of the building, basically, where it could just barely hear the sound to echo, and it didn't feedback. And that was pretty wild. So yeah, I encourage people to just be open-minded and really review your recordings very closely, and don't be afraid to go out and record wherever you are. Like I said, sitting in your car waiting to pick the kids up from school, just run it and ask a couple questions, or just listen quietly.
Okay.
That's what I've got.
Well, I guess that'll do it, and we're almost out of time. Danny, I really appreciate you coming on the show. This has been fantastic. I will thank you for everybody who's used your app, and especially me from my heart, because I really used EchoVox and got great results. Thank you for coming up with this.
Thanks for having me, Len. Appreciate it, man.
All right. You take care of yourself, sir, and we will talk again.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you.
All right. You have a great day. All right, that's going to be it for us. We got to end this in 10 seconds. So everybody have a good day. Thanks for watching the show. Good night, everybody.